Japan seems like a nice place.
Wait, let me try to get this going again real quick, and then we'll go. We'll go. One FPS. What's going on, dude? Is there some weirdness going on with my uh? mm, All right. Well, that worked now. Cool. All right.
Japan seems like a nice place to live. People are polite, the streets are relatively clean, and if you're in Tokyo or other major cities, the streets are full of shops, restaurants, and izakayas and bars. On
All right.
surface,
Right off the bat, I thought he was gonna say if you're in Tokyo, depending on where you are, Tokyo can be pretty gross. Like, you could just look up online. There's tons of videos of like people fucking getting messed up in like Shibuya at night, fucking throwing up, bags of trash everywhere. That's not to say it's like, oh man, what a shithole or anything, but it's like it's not like it's some utopia, right? Um, so it's not like this land of perfection, is what I'm getting at. Um, which the video is called "The Dark Side of Japan." And we lost something important, so he's gonna get into some of the dark side stuff, and the relatively clean part definitely true in many areas. But I have been to like not necessarily. I mean, I've been to rural areas, and then I've also been to like some kind of in between type of areas as well. And oh, sorry, I need to get some eye drops in. Um, but first, let me finish my thought. So I've been to some places that are closer to the rural side, or just like small towns that are less populated, and even in some of those areas that seem like freaking middle of nowhere, to the point where did we want to go? We actually wanted to go to me and some friends were going to a crane game place that we didn't realize was a chain. Sea Dog VA, I'm pretty sure had been to one of these of this like crane game place, and we were thinking it was this one we were going to, and it ended up being kind of smaller than we thought it would be, and it was like a pretty long walk from the train station to get to this place. And so, it was just a fun adventure. So we were just going for, you know, about a 30-40 minute walk. It was pretty, decent distance from the train station. And yeah, there was a litter on the side of the road. And it's like, where did this even come from? There's nobody here. So, I mean, litter happens. There was definitely no foreigners anywhere in this place. And yeah, people are people wherever you go. Yeah, there's going to be different like cultural stuff and, tendencies for certain things, but people are going to be people are going to be people wherever you go.
everything appears nice and orderly, and it really does feel like a comfortable place to live. But if you stay here long enough, especially if you actually live among Japanese people rather than staying inside an expat bubble in Tokyo, you start to notice that something is off. Beneath the smiles and polite words, there's a kind of coldness. They don't smile because they're happy, they smile because smiling has been carved into their faces. You can't tell whether they're enjoying the conversation with you or not. When you tell a joke, they would laugh, and you feel happy about it. But when you are not making a joke, they also still laugh anyway. At that point, you start to wonder if they're simply playing the role of someone who enjoys having a conversation with you.
It's funny cuz it's like we talk about this as being like, oh, this is like Japan. We do this everywhere, right? Like I was talking with my cousin about this sort of thing where it's like you're talking to somebody and then sometimes they say something and you didn't actually even hear what they said, but rather than like asking them to repeat, you just laugh and you're like, oh, kind of like as if you're listening, which you are, but maybe you just missed that bit, but you don't want to like interrupt the flow of the conversation. We do that, right? I mean, sometimes you'll be like, oh, what was that you said? Because you're like actually curious, but sometimes you're just like letting somebody talk, right? And yeah, I mean, it's a thing that we do for each other, but like I feel like in Japan, there's a lot of things that they put a focus on. And so now that we're like talking about it, you can kind of warp the way you see it, right? And to some extent it is kind of, I don't know, dystopian or whatever, but at the same time it's like a framing thing. You don't have to look at it that way. It's just how we operate and we live in a society, you guys. Um Yeah, I mean, I remember watching some like mini documentary thing talking about like Japanese culture, and they were saying like, "Oh yeah, Japan, like many East Asian countries have this concept of face and how, you want to portray yourself in a good light when you're out amongst, other people and you want to save face and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Dude, we have that terminology in English. You're using it right now." So it's like, oh, Japan, they have this what is it, honne and tatemae or something? And it's like, dude, we have that everywhere, literally. Like that's why you have different relationships with people. You have acquaintances and you have friends and then you have close friends, and yeah, you're gonna act differently with different people and you're gonna let people in. Like, you're gonna show different levels of vulnerability or whatever, right? You're not gonna be the same person for everybody. Anyway, let's continue.
You have no idea what they are thinking inside.
Whoa, what a Japanese thing. No, that's how people are, right? And then, there are definitely people that you know what they're thinking, right? You know exactly what they're thinking. They wear their emotions on their sleeve, right? And then there's people that tend to do that, right? Or give this impression of wearing their emotions on their sleeve, but they're playing fucking 4D chess with you, and what's really going on in their mind, they give the impression of being relatively simple and straightforward, but they have some like stuff going on in their minds. And like I'm saying that, I know that because I've been that way sometimes. And then there's times, especially when you've been that way, you can see straight up when people are being that way. And you know, you can also detect whether they are aware that they're doing that. And it's like, I know you're thinking other things or feeling a different way than you're portraying. And I know that you're trying to play off that you're not aware of that. But but you're like burying that shit. Like, as simple as humans are, we can be kind of complex at times, and we do this shit. It's not a fucking Japanese thing.
There is this role playing culture in Japan, often described with the word
Oh my god, dude! Every freaking sentence. Um, and this is something I really don't like about all this like cultural study stuff, because you like point these things out as if they're unique to that culture. It's like, no, dude, we all do that stuff. And then there's some like peculiarities about this one culture, and then we just like snapshot it to this one thing. But it's like, dude, we all do that. Like, what makes it unique is we're focusing on this one culture, that aspect of this one culture, when we all fucking do that thing. Maybe there's varying degrees of it, but like here's an example. Um, half of my family is and I don't know why my eyes keep closing. It's because I had eye surgery. That's why. Half my family's Filipino, right? And I grew up in a place where there's tons of Mexicans everywhere. Anyways, most of my friends growing up were Mexican, and hanging out with them and some of their friends, they'll like do their Mexican jokes and shit, right? And it's like, oh man, that's such a Mexican thing. And I'm like, I'm keeping my mouth shut and just, smiling and whatever. But it's like, dude, Filipinos do the same fucking shit. And then same thing with Filipinos. It's like, oh, fucking do the same fucking shit. And it's like the like you're freaking what is it, Larry the Cable Guy, and all and Jeff Foxworthy, like those redneck comedian dudes. It's like, oh, you're a redneck, blah blah blah. It's like, dude, yeah, maybe there's like very specific things that are like redneck, but it's like, dude, we all do that stupid shit. It's just like you do that shit in a different environment and it has like a slightly different flavor to it. You know what I mean? Um, anyways, I don't know. Maybe I'm being nitpicky.
word tatemae. And this
Boom!
tatemae
A facade a person presents to the public, concealing their true feelings or true self. Dude, we all do that. That's why we're not fucking fighting each other all the time. Anyway, it bugs me. It bugs me.
isn't limited to formal or public settings. It exists even within families. For example, when a father finds out that his daughter has been selling her underwear and he was
What
called
is it? Is that boo? Buru seru. Boo? I think that's boo. Ha, he, fu. Yeah. Buru. Probably from bloomers. Brumas, and then like selling or sale is my guess.
by the
I don't know.
police, and the officer explains to him what happened. In that moment, the expected role of the father is to scold his daughter and tell her not to do it again. So that's the part he is supposed to play. So he plays it. ああ、まったく。おい、これからはもうこんなことやるんじゃないぞ。わかったか？うん、わかったよ、パパ。ごめんなさい。The daughter understands that this is just another matter of tatemae, so she responds with tatemae as well. She plays the role of the daughter who regrets her own action and apologizes. And once the father and daughter have completed their roles, they simply return to their normal lives, where the daughter continues selling her underwear. Living in such a society,
It's I guess it's like the way that they think about it, it shows differently, but we absolutely do that same thing too. Like I guess I'm saying we as in like an American, right? But I'm sure this happens freaking everywhere where you're gonna, we call it a white lie, right? You're gonna lie and get through this situation, and then you're gonna do whatever you're gonna fucking do. Yeah. And then freaking another term we use is virtue signaling, right? You're gonna say like, oh, or say or believe or act like you believe a certain thing, and it's like you don't really fucking believe that. You're just signaling that, oh, this is who you are on the outside, but on the inside you're a different person. And, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think people get caught up and don't realize what they're doing sometimes.
you start to feel that something is off. And Japanese people also feel that too. They sense that something is not right, but they don't know what exactly is not right. Some blame foreigners, some blame conservatives, some blame stagnating economy. But these are all surface level issues. The fundamental issue is that people are living within a structurally malfunctioning system.
I'm not sure if I agree with that. Because what we do as people are what we do as people. Like we have these relationships with each other and they're going to have varying degrees of honesty with like within and without ourselves, right? It's just what we do. But we live in a society where we have access to so much information and rules and this and that. I feel like people don't have time and don't realize they're not doing this to like reflect on things. And also we're told this is the way things are, and we have a spin on it that we're a framing of things, right? But it's like we don't have to frame it so dystopian. Like this is how people are. And this is actually something I've been having to climb back out of recently is like, when people behave in a dishonest way, it's like it, especially if it's like at somebody else's expense, it is kind of despicable. But at the same time, it's like natural to do to some extent, right? Um, and when you're a have, rather than a have not, you have more leeway and leisure to, be more high and mighty, right? That's not to say like being dishonest and, um, falling for various vices is relative. I feel like if you are a have not, it's still better for oneself to aspire to virtue. Um, anyways, I think it's just kind of falling into this trap of not realizing we're animals. Okay, let's see where he's going. He's saying it's a system.
System that no longer allows for natural organic Japanese way of life. So they always hide their natural organic Japanese way of life.
What the heck is he talking about? Natural or organic Japanese way of life? It's either natural and organic, or it's Japanese. I mean, I guess there's gonna be some mix of the both, but it's like they're at odds with each other, and you want to have a balance. Because if you want to go straight Japanese, it's like, the way that they try to formulate things is like very orderly, which is the opposite of organic, right? Hmm. I have some other thoughts on the Japanese way of life and like way of seeing things, and maybe I'll get into it by the end of the video.
So they always hide their true inner feelings and perform a happy, civilized person. The gap between how life should be and how life actually is can be seen clearly in anime. Anime often portrays the idealized life, a main character surrounded by reliable friends.
That's not real.
They live in a supportive community where people help each other.
おかみさん、この隙に裏から鬼へ僕も戦う。相手は武器を持ってんだよ。でもいい子じゃないか、守っておやり。
And they're surrounded by environment where they can feel the spiritualities, ghosts, and some divine powers.
My monitor mixed up. Hotaru.
なんかデートみたいですね。
These stories are reflections of what they wish their life would be, which no longer exists in reality. In reality, most people, especially
Reflections of what they wish their life would be. Yeah, I can see that. But I mean, it's like to some extent, it's like what things could be, right? In a lot of these things, there's some kind of a hardship going on that the characters are dealing with. Unless it's like one of them really laid back anime, right? But even those, like I'm thinking of I just watched the first episode of, I don't remember the name of it. It's like a mountaineering anime. Cute girls mountaineering type situation. And it's like the main character, she's like not that social and not that fit, and like only went like hiking up a mountain one time when she was like really little. So, it's she has to like learn this new stuff, but she has, obviously there's the supportive friends to get her there, right? But it's like, I remember hearing about this survey taken years and years ago about, it was given to, I guess, some Japanese audience, and it was like, well, what do you want or don't want in your anime? And one of the questions that, I just had stuck out to me was like, do you want your anime to have some like moral message to it, right? And I think the answer was like overwhelmingly like, no, we don't want any of that shit in our anime kind of thing, right? Like we just want to enjoy anime. I don't want someone telling me like how I should be. But it's like I feel like you can't help but have that in anime. At least when I watch anime, that's what I get out of it. And I haven't watched anime in a long time, and like I said, I've been kind of digging myself out of a hole lately, so I'm getting back into anime because it's been a real help in my life. But that's the way I see it, is like it's not just a form of entertainment, it's like reframing how I see things in real life. Because like when you see these friends being supportive of their friends, and then the person viewing this anime is like, man, I don't have any friends, at least not like these people where they're like, their friends are supportive. And it's like, well, are you supportive of your friends? And then, I would imagine like some of these people that are jaded that way that are saying like, I am supportive of my friends, but nobody helps me out. And it's like, well, are you really? And like, how are you supportive? Are you supportive in like ways that actually matter? And then, like maybe your friends actually do suck, right? And you gotta kind of cut the bad fruit off the tree and find some new friends, right? Like do something with you have to fucking step forward and do some shit to achieve this freaking anime life, right? Like you can't just be stuck where you're at and then watch anime as your fucking medicine, right? I mean, I'm like I probably sound like some privileged motherfucker, which, I would say I am, but I wouldn't say my life hasn't been difficult at times. And the best times of my life, well, let me say this, the worst times of my life, other than like, tragedies that one faces in life, right? Other than those, has been just working a 9 to 5 job and having a routine that I wasn't happy with. But like looking back on it, it's like I wasn't happy because I was convinced I wasn't happy of my situation. But like honestly, I had everything I wanted. I was just not happy with myself, really. It's like I wanted to be more and I didn't know how to do that. And so I sought out difficulties that I normally would avoid, and those resulted in some of the best times of my life. And it's literally painful. Like the psychological pain of like going into things that make you fucking uncomfortable. It's like you want to fucking tear your fucking heart and throw it out after you do the things. But in the moment, it maybe you could step up to it, or maybe you're gonna freeze, or maybe you're gonna feel like, dude, I have to fucking leave. I've left, dude. So I had a buddy that he's like, oh, my neighbors are throwing a Halloween party, right? And it's like, we're both kind of introverted and like we spend all our time hanging out drinking and just like philosophizing about shit, right? We're just talking about a bunch of random shit and just kind of talking deeply to some extent about things or watching anime, whatever, right? So we're pretty like, not super social dudes. He was more social than I was. But anyway, we're like, oh, let's check out the party. Like he was invited, and I was basically plus one, right? And we go to this place, and I'm like walking through, and we had a couple of drinks beforehand to kind of grease the wheels. Honestly, 90% of the time, alcohol doesn't help me grease the wheels. It's like how I feel beforehand. If I'm feeling up to it, I'm feeling up to it. As far as like, yeah, sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't, is what I'm getting at. But I walked around. We found out there was no more alcohol. All the alcohol was bought was drunk up, so it became a BYOB type situation. So we're like, all right, we walked around a little bit, tried to like get into the social mood, right? And we're like, you know what? Let's go. And it was his neighbors, right? So we just went back next door to get a couple more drinks, and then we were gonna head back over, right? And we went back to his place. He went to use the bathroom, and I'm like, my heart rate is like going sky high, and I'm like freaking out, and I'm like, I can't do this. And I'm wearing a costume too. It was a Halloween party. We were all in costume, so it's not like people are gonna recognize me. But I was so fucking distraught by this whole like trying to be social thing that I went out his back door to go around the block. As I'm doing so, I'm taking off my costume. So all I'm wearing is like I'm like shirtless with just jeans instead of what my costume that I was wearing over that, and took my wig off and went around the front of the block, which is like right in front of the house, got in my car and drove home. Like I went like super self-conscious mode. Like I don't want people to just see, because I talked with like a couple of people that one fucking asshole pointed out like, dude, you got your costume wrong. Because it was I was um supposed to be Ken from Street Fighter, right? But I got Ken and Ryu's wig slash outfit combination mixed up. So I had Ryu's like hair and bandana with Ken's outfit. Anyways, so guy pointed it out, and I was like super embarrassed, even though I didn't need to be. Obviously, like looking back, it's like that's a hilarious fucking situation. But at the time, I was super self conscious and blah blah blah, and so I didn't want to be recognized just like jumping in my car and leaving. So that's why I took everything off, and like I'd rather look like some weird drunken shirtless dude getting into a car and leaving rather than like the guy that they saw before. Um, yeah, dude. And then I cried myself to sleep that night. That's how, I'm not like some fucking like I'm not coming out of nowhere like, oh, just do it. But it's like, dude, yeah, you gotta just have to just do it. And yeah, it fucking hurts. And I'm not fucking speaking out of my ass saying like, oh yeah, but you just go over it. Like you do. That's exactly what you have to do. Um Shit, dude, man, I need to make a series of just like fucking story time because I got some fucking stories, dude. Um but yeah, it's like you need to improve yourself. And then maybe improving yourself means improving your peers. But just being like, oh, woe is me, my situation isn't like the anime, then it's like, well, then, oh, so you're just gonna be that way. Like, fucking do something about it. Don't complain to anybody. Don't complain to yourself. Just fucking take steps to get to where you want to be, right? And this is what I was hinting at, like bringing up before. It's like, this is kind of an ingrained thing in Japanese society, right? And I would argue it's ingrained in a lot of societies. Just it kind of comes off in a different way to some extent. But it's like it's the whole rat race thing, right? You just do the thing you're supposed to do, and then hopefully you're happy doing what you're doing that everybody else is doing. But the thing is, it's like you got to do what you want to do. Find a way to make it work. Stop blaming others. Stop being, I don't know, like believing that your shit situation's so bad because maybe it's not that bad, and you're just being infected by other people that are saying their situation's bad and your situation's bad, blah blah blah. It's like, I've worked, uh, I've gone to school, and people complaining about the same shit that I'm doing. Like I'm doing the same thing as you, but you're complaining about it, and I think it's fucking fine, right? Who's right? I mean, I'd argue like it's kind of a matter of taste type of thing, right? Or framing. It's like, dude, it's actually fine. you're just really practiced at being dissatisfied with where you're at. And if you are truly dissatisfied and you want more, then take steps to get there. So this whole be Japanese thing, like don't make waves and like follow the rules and blah blah blah. It's like one of the big like heroes like in of like Japanese like folklore. Well, I guess this is an actual guy, but is freaking Musashi, right? Dude's a fucking badass. He's like not wanting to, he's just like a freaking kind of a meathead young dude, right? Insolent. And then he gets locked up with some books and he gets the opportunity to just learn from people before him that were more wise than he is, and started to realize, oh, I want to get more into this stuff and figure out and do what I want to do. And he fucking starts doing shit that just tickles his own fancy, doing shit he wants to do and failing a fuck ton along the way, and then just becoming a fucking badass. I mean, it's simple to say. It's easy to say. It's not necessarily simple to do, especially depending on, people's situations. But yeah, it's like people it's just inherently easier to be disappointed with where you're at than to take steps and shove off your disappointment, shove off your like embarrassment and your psychological pains, uh and then just do what you got to do. Anyway, and that's why I want to make this channel, because it'll help me do what I want to do and maybe bring some folks along for the ride. Anyway, let's keep going. We're gonna make this a long fucking video.
Especially after they graduate from schools, they no longer have any friendly circle or community they can rely on. They have no one to ask for help, and they're
Every freaking step of the way. I'm like moving my arms all over the place because of how much I'm reacting to this. Yeah, it can be hard to make friends out when you're done with school. So make friends while you're in school, young folks. And if you're not so young, go to college and make some friends. How do you do that? Get involved with stuff. Get outside your comfort zone. Do things where you need help in order to succeed, and make it your like you have to succeed kind of situation. Or get into things that you might be the senpai and you'd be able to help other people. I was kind of in both of these types of parts, but usually more senpai because I was an older guy in college. But it's like when I got into tutoring, there were some younger dudes that had been tutoring a lot longer, and so they kind of showed me the ropes. Not necessarily showed me the ropes like on purpose. I just like learned from the way they're doing things, right? So yeah, like you don't necessarily need a straight up mentor, right? But you can still use people as mentors whether they know it or not, right? And vice versa. Like as you're learning or as you're growing, try to be a mentor for other people. You don't have to be like explicitly or like in an official manner somebody's mentor, but help somebody else that also needs help. Anyway, it's hard to find those things, but also they're available, right? You could go to school, you could go do some hobby. I've been in and out of climbing, and I'm still basically a beginner. I've never been outdoor climbing, so there's an opportunity for me to meet people. Is like meet people at the gym, find out who's like wanting to go outdoor and needs a partner. Boom, I have an opportunity. I haven't explored that opportunity yet because I have a lot of other stuff like in the pipeline. I got into playing 8-ball, some pool, billiards, and that's been fun. Just find some hobby that's not just video games. Unless you're gonna join a freaking guild and like hang out with people in your guild. That's another way. I was playing Final Fantasy 14, and usually I try to stick with joining a smaller guild because you can be more close knit with folks. And I paused because I'm like thinking about some of the people I met. Like some people are pretty insufferable, but that's just me. You know, people of different personalities and interests are gonna like clash if you force them to be together, right? There's a lot of like Final Fantasy 14's like player base that I'm not really a fan of. They're a bit kind of over the top in my view. Um, but generally, like the terminology I've heard people use is like toxic positivity, and that's kind of the way I see it. Is like people are a bit too positive, but at the same time, the things they're negative about, they're too negative about. They're really bipolar in that way. It seems like, and then also really desperate the way they talk. Not everybody. Like some people, you can hear in the way they talk that they are desperate for friends and to be liked. And what ends up happening is they don't know how to be authentic and they don't end up forming strong relationships. Um, yeah. I mean, like I get that. I've definitely been in that type of situation myself. But I mean, it's also hard when you're just like a naturally quiet person. Like the people I have in mind while I'm saying all that stuff are like really talkative, right? When I'm conversing with like a group of people, I'm the quiet guy that's just listening. And that's been a source of what do you call it? Being self-conscious. But it's like, dude, that's just how I am. So I'm gonna be that way and be fine with it, and find people that are cool with that, right? You know, I'm more of a one-on-one kind of guy, or a very small group kind of guy. But over time, you start developing these other skills of being able to be more authentic or talk with bigger groups or all this type of stuff. But you really need to step out of your comfort zone, be honest, be willing to um, get upset with people, and then also be willing to let them get upset with you. I remember in World of Warcraft, way back in the day, there was this one dude, I fucking hated this guy in the guild. And, he was just talking shit about blah, blah, blah. And I fucking hated this dude. Fast forward some months later, and I fucking meet this guy in person, and he's a cool guy. He's like, yeah, we're cool. Like, we were cool before we met in person, but he was like one of my close buddies in the guild and in real life, was on better terms with this guy, um, even though I fucking hated him. Um, but yeah, like the shit that I was getting upset about, it's like it's fucking whatever, dude. That was my problem. Um, I mean, it wasn't like it didn't have to do with like the dude's character or something. He wasn't like a bad guy. It was just like a disagreement, basically, and I just fucking held on to it like a fucking bitch. For a while, and then eventually, that's the other thing that you learn is to let fucking shit go, dude. Like people don't have to be summed up by your worst encounter with them, and that's hard to do nowadays because we try to sum shit up so that we can move on to the next thing. But dude, stick with stuff, and there's gonna be more and more to learn from just the one fucking thing. Um, I think it was a Musashi fucking quote. If you know the way broadly, you see the way in all things. And one way to interpret that is like if you get really deep into something, you'll see a lot more in it than you would at a surface level. What I think of a lot when I think of that quote is this book by Josh Waitzkin called The Art of Learning. And in the book, and I think also in a podcast, like a Tim Ferriss podcast, he said something about like when he was like super duper chess master, right? And then um, he started learning other stuff, and he would see things or learn new things, and basically chess would be his analogy to make sense of things. And It's like, yeah, when you're learning something new, it's not like it's completely new. You can find some parallels or ways to make sense of that thing based off of some other deep thing you've learned before. But if you never learn deep things or learn something deeply, you're not going to be able to learn anything deeply. You got to start with something. There's another letter in that Tao of Seneca, right? That's, I could pull up the title of this thing. Audible. And this one. And I think it was like the second or third one from the first volume. Preview. You don't need that. We need chapters.
Tim Ferriss Audio presents.
I paused it. Okay. On discursiveness and reading. Basically, you're going hither and thither, as someone might say. Going from this thing and to this thing, all this novelty in what you're reading and consuming. And you're not gaining anything in any kind of depth. And this is kind of like what I was saying yesterday is like, the difference between knowledge and intelligence and wisdom. Like you're filling yourself with all this knowledge, that little bit of learning is a dangerous thing. You have all this knowledge, but you don't have any intelligence in how to use this stuff. So you just put this shit together and you make this elaborate thing that sounds like it's smart, but it's like, it was actually meaningless. You know what it is? Let's pull up Billy Madison's speech. This is it. This is people in a nutshell.
Mr. Madison, what you just said.
I wish. Can we get the whole speech? Okay, here we go. This is a good movie, by the way. Check it out.
Mr. Madison will go first. Mr. Gordon, choose the topic. English literature, U.S. presidents, My Wife the Tramp, Burning Dog Poo and the Human Response, Reflections of Society and Literature,
Reflections of Society and Literature.
Good luck, schmuck.
Mr. Madison, the Industrial Revolution changed the face of the modern novel forever. Discuss, citing specific examples.
Come on. Okay. The Industrial Revolution, to me, is just like a story I know called The Puppy Who Lost His Way. The world was changing, and the puppy was getting bigger. So you see, the puppy was like industry, in that they were both lost in the woods. And nobody, especially the little boy, society, knew where to find them. Except that the puppy was a dog. But the industry, my friends, that was a revolution. Nip-high football rules!
Oh man, dude.
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but
Dude, That was better than a lot of the respond to once, the reply twice shit I'd see in fucking college discussions, dude. At least that was like creative. Anyway. So actually this is a perfect example, this movie, of what I'm getting at on like depth, right? So, this is just a fucking comedy, stupid ass fucking movie, dude. But if you think about what's going on here, right? It's like they had this fucking dipshit rush through, 12 years of like basically primary school. I guess that's not what you call it. Is like, primary, secondary, and post-secondary, right? So elementary, middle, and high school in like some number of weeks, like a few months, right? And he's supposed to like learn in that short amount of time. Like, no, you can't fucking do that. You have to spend time thinking about things. You need to like let it all simmer. You need to go deep into something. But no, he got a freaking snapshot of some math and a snapshot of some history and a snapshot of the puppy who lost his way. And and then fucking let's put this all together in a fucking amalgamation of some meaningless fucking shit. That's what we do as a society, fucking like just being passed through school because that's what you do. Like we don't even focus on kids actually learning. We focus on them like passing the tests, right? And it's fucked up. But so what I'm getting at is he got a huge breadth of education, but no depth to it. And that is what we're doing with social media and YouTube and school, which is unfortunate. And yeah, like, video essays are a lot of fun, right? But it's cool to like one of my favorite channels. I'm not sure if I'm subscribed on here, but let's pull them up. Technology Connection. Subscribe. I really like this guy's channel. So he has a huge breadth of knowledge on a lot of like technology, particularly like older technology, right? But because of all of the depth and like research he puts into this stuff, he also has a lot of depth. And he shares it with people that are viewing his content. But the depth of the viewer, or the depth the viewer gets to experience, is not going to be what this guy's learning, right? I remember I had to write an essay in school about man, it's been so long. I don't even remember where or when I wrote this essay, but it was responding to a fish story, is what it was called. And it was oh man, I don't even want to get into it. Long story short, one person learned everything, and all of his peers learned to follow him. I'll probably talk about a fish story, excuse me, in greater detail at another time, but I'm like going way too far off the mark here. All right, so what were we doing? We were watching fucking Dark Side of Japan, and I got on this huge fucking tangent of how fucking stupid we are. Anyway, let's go. Back to the video.
Spirituality, which is hidden at their core, has nowhere to manifest. Everything becomes role play. You play the good, law-abiding citizen. You play the good father or mother. And when you look around, you see people who look tired, drained, and unhappy. Many people are just too exhausted even to say konnichiwa to their neighbors. There is now a kind of greeting phobia or neighbor phobia. Many people are afraid of encountering their neighbors, so they...
Same thing in America. Continue.
do whatever they can to avoid encountering them. For example, checking the peephole to make sure there's no one around. Or
Okay. Introvert DoorDash experience. Is this it? Let me log in. I guess I gotta sign up. Email. Oh. Oh, do I already have an account? Interesting. I do already have an account, actually. I forgot. Log in. Close that. Log in. Let's see. I'm on. I'm on. You can do it, I believe. Did I check my email? Be fine. Alright, now we click on the link again. That's not the one I'm looking for. Come on. It's such a good one. It's so good. Nope. I don't think this is it, but... Oh, this is it. Here we go.
Put that shit on the ground, nigga. Yeah, nice and easy. Scram.
That's me too, actually. I mean, not literally. That's not me in the video. I can imagine some weirdo thinking that. But I mean, that's what I do when I order DoorDash. And then sometimes, like the last time I ordered DoorDash, I don't actually usually check the peephole, so I opened the door, and my DoorDash driver was right there waiting to hand me the, like, I didn't even hear them knock because I had my headphones on. But, you know, my notification said that they were there, so I was like, all right. And then somebody drove off, so I was like, oh, I figured that was my DoorDash driver, but it was just somebody driving by. And she's like, oh, here's your order. And I was like, oh, thank you. You know, we're all smiles, but I'm like, she didn't realize I'm all smiles because, like, I was not expecting this. Anyway, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's not just Japan, it's everywhere.
they hide it somewhere when they see someone is approaching to the elevator, so they can avoid taking the elevator together. They try their best to avoid any encounter. In Japan, the sense of community has collapsed, replaced by individualism imported from the West. But unlike Western countries, where individualism is balanced by Christian values such as love your neighbor, compassion for lost sheep, and church communities that support one another. Japan doesn't have those. Japan's sheer individualism just push everyone toward isolation.
警察庁によりますと、去年1年間で全国の警察が遺体を取り扱った20万人余りのうち、自宅で亡くなった一人暮らしはおよそ7万6千人でした。
In this new individualistic worldview, neighbors are simply trouble. Even family members can feel like burdens. Those who fall behind are dismissed as losers through a logic of 自己責任, personal responsibility. And a person's moral value is reduced to whether or not they can perform what is expected of a proper citizen.
So this is a tough thing, right? Because it's true to an extent. Is like people do need to uphold some kind of a personal responsibility. But at the same time, it's like I feel like the people that you'll hear from that are like, saying like, oh, I'm not gonna bother with these other people just because they don't have their shit together, right? Either they're really fortunate to, have what they have, whether, because of just fortune being their way, or they just have the drive to take on more than other people. It's harder and easier for some people is what I'm getting at, right? But there is like no shortage of people that are just they don't get their shit together, and it's a difficult problem. I mean, because I'm personally terrified of becoming that kind of person myself, because I totally could. And sometimes I feel like the only thing that keeps me from being that far down is my awareness that that's a possibility and not wanting to be there. And then also just my own experiences leading me to remember that it's better to blame myself for my situation. And I'm using the word blame loosely, rather than blaming others, which, it's easy to fall into blaming others, and I do it all the time. But reminding myself, like, dude, if I want to change something, I have to fucking change something, right? If it is to be, it is up to me. That's the thing, right? But it's really easy to feel stuck. It's really easy to not be able to see how you can just step outside of the fucking matrix for a minute and make a different decision, regardless of which side you're on, whether you have your shit together or you're one of these people that doesn't have their shit together, right? And then some people are trying really hard to get their shit together, and they're playing on fucking hard mode. And you know what would help? If they had just a little bit of help to get that extra bump up, and now they have their shit together, and now they can be a font of good, right? Anyways, it's a tough situation, and things are difficult with the way, I don't know, like our society and economy and all of these factors that are at play. Anyway, it's a difficult thing. And I don't have an answer for that. All I can say is just for people to try to work on themselves, which is a very individualistic thing, and try to encourage other people to do that as well, which is the community part of it. And that's what I want to do with this channel, right? Anyway, let's go.
In other words, all you should do is to behave like others. What you really feel inside doesn't matter. They try not to stand out, so they're...
Yeah, so that's like easy mode, right? That's the default. That's the, if you don't want troubles, you're going to go this route and have the default level of issues and concerns in your life, which aren't going to be as satisfying. Or you could go the scarier route, and yes, there's going to be like a survivorship bias in this, right? If you use like Musashi as your benchmark, right? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, you could say things worked out for him, but who else tried to go that way? If you think of the book Musashi by Eiji Yoshikawa, he's got this friend who also wanted to live a good life, and he went the default route of just chasing just comfort and regular life, and everything fucking sucked, right? He could have gone the route Musashi did and just not been good enough and failed and died, got killed, whatever, right? But which is better? Like the long, slow slog through life where you're going to have some enjoyment here and there, but a general backdrop of dissatisfaction through a long life, or a potentially shorter life, but where all along the way that you're doing what you want to be doing, or at least you're engaging in decisions that you've chosen rather than were chosen for you, right? So, I mean, it's a tough decision, right? Because you can, to some extent, make those decisions, but you don't know how it's going to play out. And I can't say that the long, slow slog is not the right choice. I think it's not. I mean, you can find a balance. These are two freaking sides of a spectrum, right? You don't need to go all in on this one thing or the other. So you just gotta find the balance that's suitable for yourself, and whichever route you take, own your decisions. Don't say you made this decision because XYZ outside of myself, right?
Heads are always low. They walk like this.
That's how I grew up.
You might wonder what kind of life Japanese people used to live. You can see by looking at the culture of traditional rural villages.
Yes,
Japanese
that's
people
where I
had a
want to
worldview in which
insert
the
myself,
spiritual world
impose
and
myself.
the physical world overlapped. Everything has a spirit, even a rock or a leaf, and everything was sacred. Nature was a channel through which spiritual power flowed, and humans were simply part of that flow. We were not special. We were just one of those things, like a rock. This worldview is reflected on film like Princess Mononoke or the anime Mushishi.
Good movie. I actually never watched Mushishi though.
And people had
everyone
their
I
ways
know
of
that's seen
living
it
that
say
allowed
it's
them
really great.
to live in harmony with both spiritual world and the community. Their community is organized around the shrine, jinja. And the jinja did not always mean the building. Many shrines existed long before any structure was built. In My Neighbor Totoro, for example, there's a large sacred tree, a shinboku, where Totoro lives.
It's really freaking weird. There's a place I used to work at near Santa Cruz, California, and it's so weird because like down the street from where I worked, I was just working on an assembly line, but there was like some small building and a little parking lot, and in the parking lot was a circular area that had a big ass tree in it that had these fucking things wrapped around it, and I never went to check out what the deal is, why they had this seemingly Japanese fucking sacred tree thing here. And it was just there. I never went to check it out. I worked at this place for fucking 7 years, and I never checked out what the deal with that was. Actually, a buddy of mine lives in or works in that area right now. I should tell him to hit it up and see if it's still there. Anyway, maybe I can update on that sometime.
メイがお世話になりました。これからもよろしくお願いいたします。
お願いいたします。
The tree itself functions as the shrine, and the community formed around it. And the shrine also worked as their token, something that represented them, represented whatever deity that they worshipped. This spiritual entity protected them, And it could also curse them if they were not living in the right way. Japanese people.
So, this is a animism way of talking about this, but it's still the same concept of, like, with the Roman Stoic, right, situation is living according to nature. And what does that mean? Well, every creature has this thing that is distinctive of that creature. And humans, it's reason. Reason. And you should be living in accordance to reason. And what does that mean? Well, there's things that result in, like, negative outcomes, and there's positive outcomes, and we can choose how we live our life, right? And if you live in accordance to reason, you're going to have a good life. Yes, you'll have hardships, and you'll also have enjoyment. You're going to have all of the things that life affords you. But if you just seek out some, like, less balanced thing, say you're chasing some vice or you're just chasing comfort, you're not gonna have a good time. And these are lessons that humans learn and teach and relearn and blah 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 for freaking centuries. And it's like the human condition to have to learn this, otherwise you're just not gonna have a good time. Or, some people are just fortunate and, things align for them where they don't necessarily need to explicitly learn these things, but I'd argue that they actually have these things built into their lives, whether they're aware of it or not. And, like, this is just some, what do you call it? Just some statement I'm making, right? But if you could think of somebody that you've seen in your life that seems to have their shit together, that seems to be cheerful all the time, and talk to them about how their life is, I think you'll recognize that the things that you think are troubling or difficult and blah, 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 you'll probably find they have those things, but they just operate through them differently. Anyway.
People place a very high value on harmony and cooperation. This comes from geography and history. Many villages were in mountain areas with limited resources, and natural disasters like earthquakes and typhoons were very common. So mutual help, mutual assistance was necessary for survival. But this doesn't mean Japan was totalitarian. People don't care about the harmony of entire Japan or a city, but they care the harmony of more small circle, like small communities. If you have experienced school life in Japan, you can see how it works. Students actually do not care about what schools and teachers tell them. What matters most is the order and rules inside their own small groups, their friend circles, or clubs, or classes. For example, sports clubs usually have a very strict hierarchy and rules that members have to follow. But when it comes to rules imposed by the school, they usually don't take it seriously. I said Japanese people value harmony.
This is a thing that I think gets depicted and probably experienced a lot in Japan, but I'd again argue that this is a worldwide thing. And, it's like there was that upperclassman that was supposed to teach those younger dudes how things are supposed to work, right? And he apologized for his failure to the upper guy, right? And then goes and berates the younger dudes about, like, basically putting the blame on them. It's like, I think people get into this unconscious habit of putting blame on other people, especially when something is not especially, but including when something's your responsibility. And I would also argue it's not necessarily their fault, right? There's a lot of things that growing up we learn are out of our control or not our responsibility or whatever, right? And we also see adults not taking accountability, and it just becomes this whole thing where nobody has to take accountability and everything just sucks because nobody's taking accountability for stuff. But I think people can look to somebody that they've known or met or at least seen online, right? Somebody that seems to like give off this impression that like if you were under them, they would make sure you have your shit together and make it their responsibility that you have your shit together, even though obviously it's your responsibility to get your shit together, right? Yeah, I mean, there's going to be things that are outside of your control, but getting things done to the best of your ability is really important. And people don't fucking do that. And it's really fucking annoying, dude. I see so many freaking messages on the fucking Ring app of people saying like, "Oh, package delivered to the wrong place," blah blah blah. And it's like, dude, it's not fucking hard, dude. An address as the number and the word, and then you go to that street and then you drop off the package. I've seen packages and it's like, dude, the numbers are really big on the house. How is this wrong? Like I've had to like go to my neighbor, and I what really upset me is my neighbor having to come to me to drop off a package dropped off at their house next door. And it's like it's not hard. I don't understand how it happens, but I'm convinced it's just people that are like disillusioned with life because they're taught to be disillusioned with life and hate their job and blah blah blah, when it's like, dude, it's really not that bad. Like just because you don't get that visceral feeling from doing your job doesn't mean it sucks, you know? Like, what's the alternative? What are we supposed to be doing as humans, right? It's like, oh, money is evil, blah, 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 right? But it's like, no. It's either we do like these various jobs to make money so that we could get food on the table and then do whatever things in our, if we're fortunate to have luxury time, do those things, right? But where did we come from? We came from like, all right, we better fucking find some fucking food out in the wilderness or find some animal that hopefully we can uh like take down without too many casualties so that we'd have food on the table for our village or whatever, or a little tribe, right? So it's like we're trading that in, and just because we've put this spin on it that it's like this menial meaningless work, it's not, dude. I think one of the big ones is like fast food, dude. Like it's a tough thing because you interact with a fast food worker just on the spot, and sometimes they're great, sometimes they're just neutral, and sometimes they're just so jaded, or some people are just shitty people too, right? But it's like they're all, many of them anyway, not all of them, because I've met some really nice people that work fast food. It's just a job, but like many of them are just so jaded because they're told like, it's common knowledge that fast food or those that type of industry is just a shitty job, and it's like it's not. It's just a job like any other. Maybe you get paid less, but who cares? Is it enough for you? Then if it's not, then fucking build your path to get out of this situation, because anyway, whatever. I'm just getting on a fucking high horse.
But the harmony they value is not the harmony of the entire village. What they care about is the harmony within each community inside the village. In all villages, there were several internal communities. For example, there was this Kodomo Gumi, which consisted of children around the age of 7 to 14. This group was run by the children themselves. They had their own order and rules. For example, where they were supposed to play, what they should do or not to do, how to behave, what kind of pranks were acceptable. And when you reached 15, you were considered an adult, 成人, and you entered youth organization called Wakashugumi or Wakamonogumi. This group played an important role in village life, preparing festivals, doing some heavy labors, and even defending the community if outsiders come. Seniors taught the younger members proper conduct, discipline, and the behaviors expected of adults in the village. And there was also a female group called Musumegumi, which girls entered after their first menstruation. And this group protected their female members. These groups had clear hierarchy and rules. But they were nothing like a school hierarchies now in Japan, where individuality is suppressed. Instead, they functioned as systems that support each member's basic need and helped everyone to live happily. Everyone was expected to cooperate when necessary. But this also meant that when you needed help, they would help you. For example, if a boy liked a girl in the village, the senior members of the group would negotiate with Musumegumi. And if possible, they arrange a meeting with her. And if there is someone who had never had a romantic relationship before, the group would help him find an opportunity to do so. In Western Japan, there was a custom called yomenusumi, bride stealing. When a boy and a girl were in love, but their parents did not approve, or because of some situations, their marriage was not allowed, some men in the youth organization would go to the girl's house and steal the maiden and bring her to the boy so the couple could live together. So if Romeo and Juliet were in Japan, Mercutio and his gang would come to Capulet's house, steal Juliet, analogy, and brought her to Romeo so they can live together. So maybe they didn't have to die after all. In the most of the history, Japanese people were living in a community where everyone helped each other voluntarily and happily. I said happily because they enjoy helping others. If you go to Osaka, you can still see the traces of this. If you look like you are unsure where to go, an Oba-chan, Osaka no Oba-chan might come up to you and take you to the destination. And if you turn down her offer, she will look disappointed, as if she really wanted to help. Japan used to have communities which don't divide people into clear winners and losers. If you cannot find a partner, the community will find them. If you don't have confidence confronting girls, or if you don't know how to behave in front of girls, your community will teach you. They even teach you how to perform sex. It was completely different from the communities today. In schools now, the hierarchical social structure divides students into winners and...
Side note, there's like a manga that's like teaches that whole like the sex thing and the relationship thing. I don't remember the name of it, but it's there. And it's I'm pretty sure this thing is meant to be like an instructional manga, not like a NSFW thing. Anyway, you could probably look and find it.
And losers. And unless...
Actually, I think I know what it is. It's Futari no Ecchi. Anyway, I think that's it. There is, I think, a hentai of that. But anyway, just interesting thing.
Unless you are considered one of those cool students, you don't have any chance to build any romantic relationships. So many students simply turn to porn, with no romantic experience and with no hope of having a real relationship. Their fantasy would become disconnected from realities and their imagination expands without limit. That's why Japan produces lots of hentai. As reflected in recent...
I think, so I keep bringing up this whole thing with knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom. And I feel like you could apply that to porn, right? Like, you watch a bunch of porn and you have a bunch of knowledge, and what do you do with it? Like, I mean, do you have the intelligence to be able to utilize all this knowledge? I mean, there's nothing to utilize, right? It's just porn, right? And then, like, wisdom is like another meta level upon that. And I think the wisdom is like kind of, I don't know, keep that shit in check, right? So, like, that shouldn't be the only thing you do, and that can apply to anything you do in life. Is like, you need to just keep your fucking self in check, right? I'm not like some prude saying like, oh, don't porn this and don't, jerk it, right? But it's like, if that's what you're doing to get by in life, you need to fucking rethink what you're doing, right? It's making me think of this show on Netflix. It was like, I don't remember, it was like End of the Fucking World or something like that. Some name with fuck in it. Anyway, this dude thinks he's a sociopath, which maybe he is on some kind of spectrum to that extent. But like, there's a part where he's like, "Yeah, I jerk off because it's like it's a bodily thing I need to take care of to keep my mind, in check." And it's like, that's fucking weird. But at the same time, it's like sometimes you kind of need to just get that out of your system, right? Oh shit. What else did I want to say about this? Um, so I've been kind of holding my tongue on this whole small tight knit community thing versus like the modern school system, right? And I wanted to relate this actually to like World of Warcraft or MMOs, where back in the day there was no LFG system, right? You would just play the game and you'd run into people, and there's the chat, and you would just kind of organically get to know people if you were inclined to do so, right? And you would join guilds that way, and that was the way to get into groups. Maybe there were forums as well. I don't think I engaged in forums in that way, but that was the way, and you get into a guild, and then you're part of this tight knit community. Or maybe you end up in like one of these really big guilds and be just some fucking grunt, like whatever you wanted to do. But that's how it was. And I remember I've been in several, kind of tight knit groups, and we were all cool. And it was kind of cool to be like kind of like one of the main characters in the guild. You know what I mean? Or maybe you don't know what I mean, right? But when they introduced things like the like looking for group, that whole organic thing kind of disappeared, right? And now it's like you just go, you get matched up with a group and you do a thing. There's like to some extent no difference between just soloing the game, right? And some people are just naturally talkative and are able to still make friends, but it's really for people like me who don't have that like our natural inclination to talk to people. It removes the necessity to do so, and it makes it really hard to interact with people. And I feel like this is the same way. And part of it also, I think, has to do with scale, where he's talking about small villages. The bigger this thing gets, the more you'd say resources become sparser, or the difference between resources. I'm like in my head, I'm thinking about like strong and or attractive or whatever, like young men and women, right? As things or people to be desired, right? And you're gonna see greater. You're gonna have more knowledge. You're gonna see more things, and what's gonna happen is like you're only gonna be able to get what you can get, right? Whereas if you're in a small tight knit thing, it's the same situation, but there's gonna be, I don't know, the competition isn't gonna be so lopsided, I guess, is what I'm getting at. There's not gonna be as much to, man, it's such a weird thing to talk about, and I don't know how to articulate it. But Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, you're not gonna be as searching for like, oh, there's somebody out there. There's plenty of fish in the sea, right? Like, no, here's the fish in the pond that we live in, and we're gonna stick together. Not like go out searching for better things. It's like here's the limits, and we live within these limits. And it sounds like I don't know. It sounds like a negative thing, but I don't think it's such a negative thing. And the nice thing about I don't know the world as it is if you are somebody that's like, dude, it's fine if y'all want to live in the village, but I want to go and explore the world. Like you can do that. But now what the meta is like, all right, we grew up in the country, but it's all boring because, we know that the city exists and that's where all your dreams come true. So let's move to Tokyo. Let's move to LA. Let's move to New York. Let's move to freaking Sapporo. Like, let's move to the big cities. And it's like, it becomes kind of a rat race type thing when it's like things were fine, but you convince yourself things weren't fine, and where you came from, and you get enough of that convincing yourself that things aren't enough, and enough people being convinced of that, and then suddenly it actually isn't enough. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, uh, I mean, I am pulling shit out of my ass right now, but I don't know. It makes sense to me. Maybe there's a more articulate way to say it. Maybe I'm delusional, but I think there's something with this kind of mindset. Anyway, I think we're getting close. Yeah, we're getting close, you guys. We're almost there.
Japanese political upheaval, many people seek change. In this tidy society where many people feel what they call ikizurasa, it's hard.
Refers to a chronic sense that everyday life feels suffocating. But what convinces you of that? I mean, it's like I think what happens is when you have again, it's the little bit of learning, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. It's like novelty tends to have that thing of like excitement and like, oh man, this is great. And then when you don't develop the muscle of going deep into a thing, you'll be convinced like, oh, I need more novelty. I need more novelty. I need the variety, which is the spice of life. But it's like, yeah, it's supposed to be just a spice. It's not the meal. You know what I mean? Anyway,
To live. It's uncomfortable to live. It's not that people are so poor they can't afford smartphone, or that their streets are just so dangerous that they cannot walk along at night. They don't have acute pain, but they have chronic discomfort. Meeting a neighbor feels uncomfortable. Saying hello feels uncomfortable. Human relationship feels very uncomfortable. Reality feels uncomfortable. So they have created this massive fantasy world of anime, manga, games. And these worlds let them experience a life that could have been theirs.
じゃあ紹介するね。
so I wonder, this feels like a chicken and the egg type of situation to me, because imagine living your life in a rural village where there isn't really much contact with, there's the rest of the country, right? But there isn't really much contact with it. Maybe there's some curiosity, but it's like you are gonna get your you're gonna get used, you're adapted to the life that you're living, right? And maybe you'll be the adventurous type where you're thinking like, oh man, I'm like, when I get older I want to go explore and see what else is out there. But some people aren't that way. They can be content with what they have, but when something is dangled in front of them, like one of them fucking, what's that fish called? fish with glowy bulb thing. One of these guys, right? It's like that's dangled in front of them, and now they're like, oh man, what I have isn't good enough. It's like keeping up with the Joneses type of thing. The grass is always greener on the other side. We have all these sayings because it's like we see this other thing we don't have, and we think it's better than what we have, and we forget like actually what we had was fine until we started convincing ourselves it wasn't. With anime, which it's like again, I feel like anime can be like a double-edged sword. Like it can be like, oh man, if only my life was more like anime and I was the anime protagonist, which I think apparently a lot of people, whether aware or not, like consume anime that way. But it's like there's a lot going on in anime where you can see them as like, oh, look at this character's growth, like the whole hero's journey thing, and apply that to your life. Like, well, what am I doing? Like, how can I be better? Like, I don't know, man. It's really weird.
家のマリコおばさんにおばさんちのリカさんとリーチさんで、こっちがマンスケおじさんにタスケさん、ナオミさん、清美さんにタスケさんちの翔太にで、こっちはマンサコおじさんにおじさんちは男3人兄弟で、頼彦さんのお嫁さんののりこさんと邦彦さんのお嫁さんのナナさん、勝彦さんのお嫁さんのユミさんにユミさんちのユウヘイと恭平で、ナナさんちのかなちゃんとのりこさんちの慎吾と真央、覚えた？
はThis is a weird movie. I saw this a few years back. But yeah, so this whole community thing, and it's really interesting, you know, I could share in my own life. Yeah, like growing up, we would have our like extended family get together for holidays and things. And we would have like a few dozen people come into one house and it's fucking crowded and like people even with all these people we go off into our little different areas. Like when I was a really little kid I was with the kids. When I was becoming a teenager we started like hanging out with some of the adults. We'd go into the garage and we'd freaking play cards and shit and like be gambling a little bit. And you know, and then the moms and aunties would all hang out in a different area and they're all gossiping. And it's like it would be kind of like this. And as we got older and you know the younger people got older and like started moving to different places farther and farther away and you know having kids of their own, and so the family's actually even bigger, it kind of becomes untenable to do something like this. And I think you know that's just an example of my own family, but I feel like that is kind of what's happening with like society at large. Is like you go from these little villages and you go into the big city and you're not going to have this because there's all this other shit, you know? And it's not necessarily bad, but you got to find this where you're at. Another thing, I had this math professor when I was in college that I had a lot of respect for, and he would talk about this kind of thing, not just math, but like, you know, improving your community, right? And that's what he felt he was doing with, you know, teaching math and also being kind of a mentor to some people. I considered him a mentor. And yeah, it's like you can't fucking save the world, which is what people feel like they want to be doing on like Twitter and shit. But it's like you're not fucking doing anything. You're like distracting yourself from what you could be doing with your life, and that's why you're fucking depressed because you're not fucking doing anything actually. But if you can make some thing that matters in your little corner of the world, which I feel like people don't even feel like they have a little corner of the world. And that's part of, you know, an issue for a lot of people. And how do you find it? You just find it. You go try things. You try rock climbing. You try playing pool. These are the things I tried, right? But what else can you try? You can go dancing. A buddy of mine's fucking huge into dancing now. Who else? You know, one of the steps that I chose was like I started an anime group just to meet other anime fans because it's like I don't know how to meet anime fans except going to a con, but people will be from all over the place, so it's not people you could hang out with on a like weekly basis, you know. So I started an anime group on meetup.com. You could do that. There's different things you could do. and you just got to put yourself out there. It's scary. You're gonna feel awkward. You're gonna feel fucking retarded, but you should do it. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I'm really glad I saved this one to react to because that